You know, I'm bringing such a beautiful lady, a good friend of mine, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit in tears here, but the reason I am is because Cynthia Davis is somebody that wants to be a tool to heal our land in the United States of America. Can you say amen? I wrote something on Facebook, and I realized it was a little bit small, and I'm kind of now hoping you didn't read it all because it was so good. I thought that's what I would use for your intro. So I'm going to introduce you to Miss Cynthia Davis, beautiful woman of God. And this is what I want to tell you. I'm reading it to you. Tonight, I want to welcome Cynthia Davis to our meeting and begin by thanking her for taking a stand against political inconsistency and unfaithfulness to the call. Cynthia Davis is running for U.S. Congress in the 3rd District. Tell her I'm so proud. And she's doing it out of her love for God, her country, and for each one of us. Cynthia is no stranger to the political scene. She has taken her stand of faith to elected offices here locally, at the state level, and will soon be in position, and I always call that a powerful posture, to fight, to protect, and to keep our Christian liberties safe and out of the hands of those who are set to destroy them. Although political conversations flow quite easily with Cynthia due to her vast knowledge of the issues facing our country, Cynthia's true passion, and ladies, this is why I'm bringing her here tonight, Cynthia's true passion is making sure that everyone knows the love of God and His wonderful saving grace. Whenever you find yourself in a conversation with her, rest assured, Cynthia will speak her heart in both the political arena and the Christian arena equally. She is the right choice for Congress. Amen. She is the right choice to represent us. I would like to introduce to you Miss Cynthia Davis. Give her a hand clap. No, thank you.
I am so honored to be here tonight. I have not been to the Best Western since it was the Baymont, and it's interesting how you feel about a location based on your first time here. So the first time I was here, it was the Baymont, and the Tri-County Legislative Labor Club was doing endorsements, so they were doing candidate interviews. So I came for that. And I don't know how they ended up that night, but here's the point. I can't come in here now and not have that same memory attached. Now, some of you are missing out on watching all the Republican stuff on TV tonight, and this is a better place to be right now. Thank you. I want to tell you a little bit about myself because just so you get the whole picture, we didn't start out this way. I met my husband when we were in high school, and I might be a little late for some of you ladies, but if you want, the secret to finding a really good husband is you got to start in high school and cultivate him, or so I thought. Well, it didn't actually work out that well. We had a conversation when we were 17 called "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, well, he'd like to be either a farmer or a truck driver or a printer. So I said, well, you can't be a farmer because you don't have a farm and you don't have any money. And you can't be a truck driver because I would never marry a truck driver. They make really bad husbands and fathers because they're never home. So we settled on, why don't you be a printer? And that's what we did. So he became a printer. I went off to college for a couple years, and then he convinced me to marry him. And I did, and it worked out great for a while until baby number 2 was 4 months away from coming. And he came home from work one night, and he said, Cynthia, I am completely burned out on printing. I'm going to be a truck driver. So see, even if you try and cultivate them early, they can always change. Yep. So I was very unhappy with that decision, but what are you going to do? You know, like you said, married him, tough it out. So His job took him we were in Massachusetts at the time, and I know some of you are wondering, why would I want to, can anything good come out of Massachusetts? But we got here to Missouri, and you'd think that'd be wonderful, but it began a very lonely time in my life, because he was not just a local truck driver. He was an over-the-road truck driver. So he went anywhere from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon to California, Texas, Los Angeles, everywhere. And it was really desperately awful. It was dark. It was so lonely that to entertain myself, I would take the two boys shopping at Kmart at night. Yeah, that's how lonely it was. And I'd see the lights come on at home. Everybody's home at night, and their husbands come home from work, and mine didn't. And it was just me and these kids. And I was so lonely. I called every church in the Yellow Pages and said, do you have anything with babysitting during the week? And I will always have sympathy in my heart for all the single mothers, because I really lived like that. Everything fell on me to manage. And I went to this ladies' meeting in the middle of the week, put my kids in the nursery, and of all surprises, they were having a class on how to be a good wife. So I didn't care what the class was. I needed babysitting and adult conversation. So after the class one week, I was telling the lady teaching the class my sad story, and I even had a little tear coming down my cheek about what a horrible man I'm married to, because he's never home. And she said to me in the most loving way possible, you're just feeling sorry for yourself. You ought to try praying for him. So I thought, pray for him? It never occurred to me. Never. But I did. I prayed for him every morning, every noon, every night, every middle of the morning, middle of the noon, middle of the night. I thought, pray for Bernie. Every time I rolled over in that big empty bed by myself, I thought, I better pray for him. And you know what? God did a great and mighty work in his life. And it was to the point where he physically had to pull the truck over to the side of the road one day, because the conviction was so heavy on his heart that he confronted truth. And he said, you know what? If this stuff is true, then I'm in big trouble. If there's a holy and righteous God that's going to demand accountability at the end of our lives, we better stop this thing right here. And he had a glorious moment when he finally gave his life to God. And he came home that weekend, and what was most amazing is he never liked reading books before, but this time, after his brain was renewed, he just couldn't keep away from books. So he would actually, now don't let this scare you, but he actually loved reading books so much that he would actually read them while he was driving. It was the precursor to texting and driving. And he came home one weekend and he said, Cynthia, the author of this book is trying to tell me that I'm a lousy husband and father because I don't spend any time with my family. Is that true? So I didn't say it. The author did. And he said, I cannot give up this job that I love more than anything else in the world to just do something boring. And he didn't know what to do, but God was getting him ready for something. And he was sitting actually in the break room in Coldwater, Ohio, when the Lord put on his heart, what's something O'Fallon doesn't have that O'Fallon needs that would raise the moral fiber of the community? And the answer was, let's open a Christian bookstore. So that was 29 years ago that he had that experience, and we've been open for nearly 28 years now. And so thank you. So you better watch out what you pray for, because we went from him being gone all the time to him being home all the time and me working with him. But, God did some amazing things in our lives. And I remember the plan was for me to run the store until it was able to support our family, and then he was going to quit his job. Well, that didn't happen. He ran it until God spoke to him, and then he quit his job. And the very week he quit, we found out we were going to have a baby. So I said, maybe you should keep your job a little longer. The job I hated, but you know what? He told me, no, God said we're doing this, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. There were people who were making fun of him, like, why would you quit your job? You got a paycheck, you got medical insurance, you got stability, you got people who love you. And you know what? God orders, God pays for. So he did that. He got off the road. Thank you. And so we had the bookstore, and we were open just a couple years when we found out that the city was shutting down Main Street so they could widen it. And the quickest way to bring people together is you create a crisis, take bread off their table, and then we all formed the O'Fallon Business Association. Now, I didn't go to the meetings because I was really a very smart businesswoman. I went because it was another night out with my husband keeping the kids. So I went to the business meeting, and it was fun. Although at the end of one of the meetings, they appointed me to be the chairman of the legislative committee. So I said, of course I'll do that. Yes. Now, what is a legislative committee? And they said, it's easy. All you do is go to all the Board of Aldermen meetings, and you report back to us every month, what is the government doing to ruin our lives next? So I thought, I can do that. And I did, faithfully for about a year. And at the end of one of my reports, I topped it off with the famous line, and ultimately we cannot change the tone of city government until we change the people in those seats. And somebody said, well, then why don't you run? And I thought, well, why don't I? So I ran, and I got elected to 5 terms on the O'Fallon Board of Aldermen. Thank you. And while I was there, you know, don't ever poo-poo municipal government, because a lot of good and bad happens on the local level that we don't even know about. So while I was there, I wasn't even there very long before I said, let's start our meetings with an invocation. And the city administrator laughed at me, and he said, you're not going to find any pastors wanting to give up a night of their life to go pray before the Board of Aldermen meeting. So I went to the chaplain's meeting, and I quoted the city administrator. I said, he says none of you are going to want to come and pray at our meeting, and I need you to help me prove him wrong. So they did, and to this day, they still open up with a prayer before their board meetings. Thank you. And then I wasn't there long before. There was somebody trying to bring a smut shop to O'Fallon. And we organized pickets. We formed a group called Citizens Against Pornography. We got an ordinance passed that would try to protect the community. And we brought out picketers. There were picketers and there were counter picketers, and it got really exciting for a while. But those things happen because we stand for righteousness. You know, it's about either God is going to have the people behave, or we're going to have worse stuff yet happen. So we are the salt. Now, Jesus didn't say, try to be the salt of the earth and try to be the light of the world. No, he said you are the salt of the earth and you are the light of the world. The only caveat he put with that is don't let anybody shove a bushel on top of you where they can't see anymore. So I didn't let them do that. But as a result, I realized I really need to move on to state government. So I did. I did. I went on to be elected to 4 terms in the Missouri State Legislature. And while I was there, I got Planned Parenthood kicked out of the public schools. So it was cool. You know, if you focus on just what God's commandments are and the right way to govern society, you come up with these ideas. Why would we want people who are providing abortions, trying to get our children to kill their offspring, and then we let them teach the sex ed class? I don't think so. So now there is a law that says they can't do that anymore. Thank you. So here I am. I've been out of government for 6 years almost. And in Missouri, we have term limits. I noticed a license plate from Illinois in here. Is there somebody from Illinois? Not really? Okay, well, let me just say, for the benefit of those who know people in Illinois, in Missouri, we have term limits. In Illinois, they just leave people in office till they go to jail. So it was 2010 I got out of office because I finished my 8 years. And you know, since I've been gone, the country's not gotten any better. In the last 6 years, what we have seen is downright evil, to the point where the man I'm running against actually paid to fully fund Planned Parenthood, which is trying to destroy our offspring. And we cannot let that happen. We need to fight it. It doesn't mean we always win, but it means we give it our all. Amen. It means we don't stand for this and we do everything we can as God has given us power and giftings to fight it. And not everybody should run for office. I just happen to have a gift. I'll call it a calling, because there are a lot of people who are called to do different things. And this is something where when I speak, I get quoted by the Post-Dispatch, by Keith Olbermann. I've been called the worst person in the world. My daughter-in-law sent me a letter when that happened. She said, you know, many people think their mother-in-law is the worst person in the world, but I've got proof. But that's what happens, and I want to encourage you with a thought. It is our desire for righteousness that gives us our courage. Amen. That's what we stand for. It's standing up for God's principles and the way He says we should behave. Yeah. So I want to thank you for inviting me to come here tonight. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that every campaign is different. And the reason I'm doing this is because I told the Lord if He opened doors, I would walk through them. And what does that mean? I don't know. Daniel had a door open to the lion's den, and he walked through that. So we walk as He gives us the light and the faith. He did conquer. So I think it's great getting to be with you ladies tonight. And I love the fact that we are iron sharpening iron, and that we can encourage each other. And we have a bond between us. I just want you to know this is very special. And the whole thing is over a week from Tuesday already. But you came tonight, and I'm just honored. Thank you so much.